Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Compound Interesting. This is Emil, and in today's video we're looking at the difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin and which is potentially the better investment for you. So the reason we're looking at cryptocurrencies today is, as most of us are probably aware, the stock market has been doing very well in the last number of weeks, and it's at pretty much all-time highs in PE ratios and any sort of price multiples. So a lot of stocks, there's not a lot of good deals on in the stock market right now. If you want my opinion on what exactly you should be doing in regards to the stock market, I'll leave a video up here. It's pretty interesting and pretty in-depth on exactly what I think you should be doing in regards to the stock market. But anyway, because the stock market is quite overvalued, I have still been buying a little bit of stocks, but I'm starting to look at cryptocurrencies as potentially a better investment right now, considering the stock market is priced so highly and it's at all-time highs, whereas cryptocurrencies are not at all-time highs right now. I'm also going to be bringing out my top 5 altcoins, a video on the top 5 altcoins after this one. So if you haven't subscribed already to this channel, I mostly talk about investing in stocks and in cryptocurrencies and try to make your life easier and your investing life easier. So if that interests you, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Smash the thumbs up button for any and all. And with all that said, I really hope you enjoyed the video and let's get started. So in this video, I'm going to give you a brief fundamental analysis on Ethereum and Bitcoin. I'm not going to go into the technical so much. I believe fundamental analysis is more important than the technical analysis of how things work or technical analysis on charts. Personally, I think that's more important. I think you're more than capable of investing into, let's say, Tesla stock, knowing the fundamentals of the company without knowing exactly how an electric car works. Obviously, there is an advantage, so you know which one is the best. So personally, I know very well how Bitcoin works on a technical and fundamental basis. Ethereum, I'm not so strong at on a technical basis. So today we're going to look at the fundamentals of both and compare and find out which is the best investment. And I'll give you my personal portfolio split of these two cryptocurrencies. Okay, so you might have heard of the comparison of Bitcoin to a digital gold. So likewise, as Bitcoin is often touted as a digital gold, Ethereum is touted as a digital oil. So whereas the code for Bitcoin is very rock solid and you can't really do very much with it, the code for Ethereum allows for a lot more malleability. It's very flexible. Any developer can come onto the Ethereum blockchain and build applications. So Ethereum want to create an internet where you personally own your own data, you own your own money, and payments and money are all built into the internet directly. And they also want an open financial system. So I can loan out my own money or I can get loans from random people around the world with no third-party interference. Just me and this guy agree and nobody can interfere with it. The main difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum is Ethereum allows for smart contracts. So essentially what a smart contract is, so I code in onto the Ethereum blockchain this certain contract that I want to execute between me and some guy in India or whatever. I code in this contract, we both agree. Whenever the program of the smart contract is completed, the smart contract automatically pays out the person. So for example, if I wanted to buy a book from this guy in India, I'd program this smart contract and the money that I gave into the smart contract would only be sent to the guy in India once the ebook had been sent to me, and it's completely immutable. So once it happens, it's done. So then that's a very basic introduction into Ethereum. You could go a lot deeper, but I'm just going to read out some of the use cases for smart contracts and Ethereum, because I think with the use cases, this gives us a clear picture of the adoption for Ethereum in the future and how valuable it could become. So the first and biggest use case for Ethereum right now is the ability to create any sort of token on top of the Ethereum blockchain. So pretty much every other cryptocurrency, well, a large majority of other cryptocurrencies just use ERC20 tokens, which are built upon the Ethereum blockchain. So a lot of what Ethereum does is just creating more cryptocurrencies. So if you're an outsider, you might not see the value in all the other cryptocurrencies, but for the moment, that's the biggest use case for Ethereum. However, that might not really sell Ethereum to you, as it's just kind of creating more coins that may or may not be valuable. There's actually a huge amount of use cases for Ethereum, really fascinating stuff. But for example, gaming online, if we go into an online game, I could physically own, I could pay euros to get my Ethereum, and my Ethereum to buy tokens that would buy, I don't know, armor in a game, and I could trade my armor or my weapons or my game coins within the game to other participants in the game. Now, that doesn't really seem very interesting right now, but in the future that could be enormous. So imagine in Fortnite, you could trade your suits with other people in Fortnite, and you could trade them for real money. So I mentioned loans and investing, so that's called decentralized finance. For voting as well, you could also use Ethereum for voting, for tracking goods. And these are only the ones that they're using right now already and that have been proven. There's thousands, there's probably hundreds more in the future that we haven't even thought of yet. Other ones is like micro tipping. So say for example, you're watching this video, you're liking the video, so you give the video a thumbs up. But say you're really liking the video, you could virtually send, or you could send me some Ethereum. But say you just want to, every time you watch one of my videos, for every minute you watch, you want to send me 1 cent. You can't really do that using PayPal or your debit card. But with blockchain technology you could, and Ethereum you could. Every minute you watch my video, automatically you would be sending me 1 cent, just as a way to say thank you. And obviously it would use a platform in which there's no ads. Similarly, you could do it for watching ads, you could get paid. And similarly with gambling, with decentralized gambling. So everything would be decentralized with no third party, it would just be directly. So let's contrast this with Bitcoin. So theoretically, you could do all the above mentioned with Bitcoin. However, it's a lot more difficult. It's much easier to program Ethereum, and that's the use case for Ethereum. But the advantage to it having less use cases and smart contracts being more difficult to implement on Bitcoin is that it's pretty much impossible to hack. Another flaw with Ethereum is that there's a face behind Ethereum and there's a company behind Ethereum, and there's no hard cap for Ethereum. So with Bitcoin, there's 21 million Bitcoins, and no more Bitcoins can ever be created. It's impossible without starting off a new chain of Bitcoin. However, there's no hard cap with Ethereum. If Vitalik Buterin, the CEO and founder of Ethereum, if he wants, he could just print another 100 million Ethereum tomorrow. Theoretically, he could. So there's always that risk. And there's always the risk that governments go to Vitalik Buterin and say, oh no, your Ethereum can't do this, can't do that, we're going to regulate you loads. But with Bitcoin, there's no one that someone could go to and shut down Bitcoin. There's no face, there's no company, and there's a hard cap and a limited supply, and it's all hard coded and unchangeable unless 51% of people who use Bitcoin agree to a change, and that pretty much never happens. Bitcoin is fixed and it's sturdier than Ethereum. It's more of a sure bet. Another difference between Ethereum and Bitcoin. So with Bitcoin, we need people to validate transactions. And how do you get them to validate transactions? They have to exert energy, computational energy, and consequently electrical energy to validate those transactions. And it's got to cost money, otherwise people would just validate fake transactions. So everyone in the Bitcoin blockchain uses computational energy to validate transactions, and anyone who puts in fake transactions or tries to validate fake transactions, the 51% majority will just be like, no, that's not legit, it's not going through onto the blockchain. So they just lost their investment of electricity. So there's no point trying to put in fake transactions. So that's why Bitcoin works so well. Ethereum is just starting out with proof of stake. So it's quite similar, but instead of outputting electrical energy, you just stake your Ethereum. So there's much less cost on the environment for when this occurs, when Ethereum make this transition. So if I want to validate transactions, instead of me now giving electrical energy or paying money in electrical energy to validate transactions, I just stake my Ethereum. So 32 Ethereums. I stake those Ethereums and validate transactions. And if my transactions aren't validated or they're not correct, I stand a chance of losing my Ethereum. Ethereum, once the proof of stake system rolls out, would be better for the environment. Okay, so now overall, I want to give my investment thesis on each and which I think is the better investment. So personally, if I was an outsider to cryptocurrencies, I think these two are absolutely the best two investments and should make up a very large proportion of your crypto investing portfolio, because these are the two safest bets by a long shot. If Bitcoin goes to zero, pretty much every other crypto coin is going to go to zero as well. It's kind of a given. Whatever Bitcoin does, the rest follow. So I think not investing in Bitcoin if you're getting into cryptocurrencies is pretty strange. Yeah, you can probably get some higher gains if you're lucky investing in smaller cap coins. However, Bitcoin should be the mantle. Like, Bitcoin is risky enough. Personally, I don't think you need to take on more risk by investing in 100% in really small altcoins. Ethereum also is a relatively sure bet in the crypto space. If you believe in cryptocurrencies as a whole, Ethereum is likely to succeed because so many other cryptocurrencies are built on top of it. Also, it has the most developers using Ethereum and developing on Ethereum. There's less developers on Bitcoin because it's less malleable, like we discussed. So Ethereum has the most developers and the most coins built on top of the Ethereum blockchain. So which is the better investment? Well, we have to look at the market caps. Currently, Bitcoin has a market cap close to $200 billion. Its market cap is as high as Tesla's market cap. So in the future, we've got to decide which is more valuable, Tesla or Bitcoin, which is the better investment right now. You kind of have to come up with your own mind, but that's just where they are. They're both equally valued in the marketplace right now. How high could Bitcoin go? Could Bitcoin 10x from here? That would put it at a price of $2 trillion. So it would be bigger than the biggest company in the world. It would be bigger than Apple, Amazon, etc. It would probably be the size of two of the biggest companies in the world combined. Although this is a very difficult task, I think it's more than possible and plausible in the next few years, in the next number of years for sure. Could it rise even further? Could it potentially 100x from this point? Put it at a market cap of $20 trillion? I think that's still possible, but the chances are much, much lower. So currently the market cap for gold is about $10 trillion, $11 trillion. So I think that's kind of the next milestone that Bitcoin could get to. If Bitcoin could become as valuable as gold, I think that's a difficult task, but it's achievable. And that would be about a 50x from here, putting it at a price of $500,000 per Bitcoin. $500,000 for Bitcoin would be fantastic. I'd personally obviously be very, very happy. However, I'm not sure about the probabilities. It's very, very difficult to discern what the probability is. Could it potentially go even higher than this number? Well, I actually made a video about this before, and I gave my estimate of what the maximum price Bitcoin could reach. And if you want to watch that video, I'll link it up there. But essentially what I said is that for Bitcoin, the maximum price that Bitcoin could reach is if everyone in the entire world, every currency in the world became backed by Bitcoin. So almost all the value in the world, if that was backed by Bitcoin, if I could physically change my euros for an equivalent amount in Bitcoin, if that were to happen, the price of Bitcoin would naturally rise to the price or to the value of every currency in the world combined right now. And that puts it at a value, that would put it at a price of around $5 million per Bitcoin. So that's my estimate of the maximum price for Bitcoin, and that would be a 500x from here. So for every $1 you get $500. So obviously a nice return if that were to happen in 20 years time. But I'd say that's a much lower probability than the other two scenarios. Now, what's the potential return for Ethereum? Now, personally, I think the potential return for Ethereum is actually higher. And the reason obviously is because its market cap is lower than Bitcoin. It's about a tenth of the market cap of Bitcoin right now. So its market cap is about $20 billion right now, which puts it at an equal market cap or thereabouts to Twitter. In your mind, you've got to analyze which is more valuable, Ethereum or the entire Twitter social network. So both are very much used and will continue to be used technologies and platforms in the future. However, if Ethereum lives up to its potential, it could definitely 10x from here to a $200 billion because of all the crypto assets that are built on top of it and all the use cases that we mentioned at the start of the video. And for it to 100x, it would have to get to $2 trillion, which I also think is possible. So to get to $2 trillion, I think that you're kind of looking at the highest return for Ethereum. You're starting to look at the highest amount, in my opinion, of the usefulness for Ethereum, which is still an absolutely smashing return. But is it going to be more useful than the two largest companies in the world combined? That would put it at a market cap of about $2 trillion. Maybe it could get there. Do I see any possibility of it going even further? Could it potentially 1000x from here, putting it at a market cap of $20 trillion? Now this is where I think it starts to get unlikely. So for every €1 you put in, you get €1,000. So if you put in 1,000, you're a millionaire. With Ethereum, I think that's quite unlikely. To get it to a market cap of 20 trillion, you're gonna have to be twice as valuable as all the gold in the world. Personally, I don't see this scenario playing out. I think the market cap of gold would probably be the limit for Ethereum. If Bitcoin became a global reserve currency, then I assume Ethereum would also be in the trillions of market cap, but maybe not quite the $20 trillion mark. So all in all, which is the better investment? So we've seen that we can get higher returns potentially in Ethereum. However, we know that Bitcoin is the rock of cryptocurrencies and is the more sure investment. However, we also discussed that if you were to only invest in two cryptocurrencies, these would definitely both be the two safest cryptocurrencies to invest in. That doesn't say that investing in cryptocurrencies is necessarily safe. Don't get me wrong. It's still very risky and it's going to be very volatile no matter what happens. I agree with the majority of people. The majority of your cryptocurrency investment portfolio should be in Bitcoin, and then the second largest should be in Ethereum. So my personal cryptocurrency portfolio is about 55 to 60% Bitcoin and about 35 to 40% Ethereum, and then about 10% in altcoins. Now this is quite heavy, in my opinion, this is quite heavy in the Ethereum and altcoin amount. So personally, I'm going to be adding more and more Bitcoin and more altcoins. I think my position in Ethereum is quite large. So it's almost 40%, and I think this is more than enough. So I'm much more interested in investing in Bitcoin. And I think if you want to invest in Bitcoin, you should read The Bitcoin Standard by Safeddin Emmous. I'll link it in the description, but it gives you a really good understanding on the fundamentals of Bitcoin and why it is so valuable. So that's my personal split. So I think a recommended split would be something like 70, anywhere from 60, maybe 65% Bitcoin to 85% Bitcoin, and then anywhere from 35% Ethereum to 10% Ethereum. And then you could play around some altcoins if you want afterward. I'm going to be bringing out an altcoin video very soon. Probably my next video will be about altcoins, so make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I'd hugely appreciate if you could smash the thumbs up button. Gets this little channel off the ground. I thank you so much for watching. So with all that said, can't wait to see you in the next video. Cheers.